Well, that was an interesting start to today's webinar. But hello, everybody, and welcome to today's live webinar. As you can see, when things are live, it doesn't always go to plan. I'm Zoe. I'm part of the Crowdfunder team. Hopefully, by the end of today's workshop, you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding and also Sport Northern Ireland's Project Reboot Activate Fund to prepare you to crowdfund for your sports organisation. At the end, you'll be sent a link to the Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you all the tools you need to run a successful sports campaign. Just some quick housekeeping points to let you know before we start. We have allowed 30 minutes for this session. It might take a little bit more than that. It just depends on the questions that we get coming in from you guys. If you do want to ask a question, just type it into the chat box on the right of your screen. We'll try to make sure we get through as many of those questions as possible at the end of the webinar. As I mentioned, this is live, and some of us are working from home, so anything can happen. Our internet might drop out, yours might drop out. If it does, just press the refresh button at the top of your browser and you should come back into the live room. There might also be some unexpected interruptions, maybe some doorbells or background noises, so please do bear with us. Finally, sitting, if you're wondering if anyone else can see you, we can't. You can see us, we can't see you, so don't worry about that, but please do feel free to answer questions in the chat box, like I said, and we'll get through those towards the end. Today, we're going to hear from Norma from Sport Northern Ireland and our crowdfunding expert, Kirsty. We're also going to hear from someone who's successfully running a crowdfunding campaign currently. We'll find out what worked for them and what didn't while making their campaign a success. So without further ado, Norma, are you there?
I am indeed, Zoe. Yes. Hi.
Hello, Norma. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good.
Could you please tell us some more about the Project Reboot Activate Fund?
Absolutely. So just like to welcome everybody here today and give you a little bit more information about where we're sort of coming from Build Back Better Project Reboot Activate. So this is the second of our COVID recovery programs for the sports sector. Obviously the first being Team Up and this one being Activate. And it's the first time we're using Crowdfunder UK, which is a new and innovative approach, I suppose, to distributing funding for ourselves here at Sport NI, but something that our colleagues in Sport England, Sport Wales have been doing successfully in using this crowdfunder to help support the sports sector and obviously recover back from the global pandemic. I guess probably in a bit of context, the programme was born out of information that you guys provided to us through our club survey that we ran. I think it was sort of either earlier this year or late last year. With regards to COVID and the response, and some of the bits and pieces of information that you gave us was that you wanted greater links with the community that obviously you work with, that partnership funding was quite key, and that working in partnership was key. Innovation was another sort of key element to it, and the greater use of digital technology and communication was flagged up, and also that you wanted some support on new forms of digital communication. So this is how the programme came about. And as I say, we wanted to be quite innovative in how we distributed our funding in the future. So we've teamed up with Crowdfunder to put in place this programme. So about the Activate programme, the Activate programme is up to £5,000 of match funding being available through yourselves, obviously raising funds through the crowd, and then also our match funding. So for example, if you have a £10,000 programme, we can give you up to £5,000 of that. If you only have a £3,000 project, then we would give you 1.5k of that. So it's around about a 50% up to 5k. If you perhaps have a project that's about 15,000, the maximum we can give you is 5k. So it is a maximum of a £5,000 award. We have 4 main criteria really that you need to fulfill. Fairly easy to fulfill, to be honest, but you must be an eligible organisation. So eligibility status is on the Sport NI website, and it really is around being a constituted sports club or a registered charity or a organisation that delivers sport as their primary focus. Your project must be COVID related or a COVID recovery related. So we really need you to outline what difficulties you've encountered due to COVID and what this project then will do to alleviate them, because that's obviously what the funds are there for. It must be hitting one or some of our target groups, so the likes of women and girls, young people, those most affected by COVID, and in terms of returning to sport and returning to sporting activity. Again, a list of those is on our website and also within the guidance document for the programme. And also then it must deliver something new within your club. It's not really there just to fund the day-to-day running costs. It's there about promoting activity and new activity within the club that will, as a response to COVID, will promote that recovery. So the other element is we'll also have a look and assess the quality of your campaign page when it comes into us, and whether it's likely to receive support from the crowd. But that's just something then that we can work with you on to make sure that we can put in place a good campaign page for yourself to help you raise the funds. So through this programme, I suppose we are looking to change our behaviours in terms of how we fund. Sometimes in terms of funding programmes, they can be a little bit slow in terms of getting decisions or getting the funds. So we aim to get an answer within 5 days to you once you have submitted your application to us and your campaign page is ready, obviously, for assessment. We're using Mango Pay. Many of you might not be familiar with that. I'm not sure that I necessarily was, but hopefully we can put a more clarity to that. But that means that you get the money transferred electronically to you really quickly. You can amend your page and resubmit it if needs be. So, if we're coming back and suggesting a few maybe changes to it, or maybe you want to add a video, which we recommend, or update some of your rewards, which we also recommend, you can amend that and resubmit. There isn't a closing date to this. The program sort of ends. When I say closing date for applications, it's quite a rolling program. Sometimes, obviously, some of these funding programs have very tight deadlines or an infinite end, but it's when the money runs out or the program ends, and that would be projects having to be completed by the 30th of June next year. You can track your progress online to see how close you are to getting your target once that's in place. And as I say, our sort of funding comes in after you've reached certain criteria around a minimum of 25 supporters and reaching 25% of your target. All of this information sort of on our webpage, just to keep you updated. I know it's quite a lot of information to take in. But I guess probably the message I want to get across is, we're trying to fund ways to fund clubs and not reasons not to fund them. So as long as you can meet those sort of criteria around the being eligible and that COVID recovery and something new, the floor is really open to yourselves. So as I've said before, all projects have to be completed by the 30th of June 2022. There's no minimum limit of funding, but anything less than £500, it's probably not worthwhile crowdfunding, because that would be obviously you guys 250 and us 250. So but as I say, it's just sort of your judgment on that and what your project actually needs the funding for to be delivered. If you don't hit your target, Sport NI does reserve the right to withdraw our offer, but as the girls from Crowdfunder will tell you, we won't let your crowdfunding campaign fail. We'll try to get the help that you need to keep the fund going and the crowd to support you. So in terms of the support then that we can provide, except that this is a really new way of distributing funding, so we've pulled together some good support packages. We've obviously got some training and there's a lot of online training on how to crowdfund. We're having the webinar today to give you a little bit more information about how to get started. We have Chloe and her team at Crowdfunder UK, who is our crowdfunding coach and provides some one-to-one support for applicants should they need it. We obviously have ourselves at Sport Northern Ireland, and we have a dedicated sort of project reboot team who's at the end of an email or phone if you need some help. And we also have a good comms and marketing team within Sport NI who can help you with your project through social media and sort of video content should you require that. I guess in terms of, we've talked a lot about being quite open and wanting to fund things. There are a couple of things that we can't fund. And firstly, this is not a capital programme. So it's a revenue program. It's not there to fund the capital works. So if it's things like building new toilet blocks or upgrading facilities and things like that, that's not what this fund's about. The fund is about creating sporting activity and getting people back to playing sport. I guess one thing is within that, we will fund small pieces of equipment that are necessary to run the program, but there needs to be a program along with the equipment. It's not just there to fund equipment or upgrade. But things that we do sort of fund are around, coaching fees, transport costs, facility hire, and I say equipment, as long as it's under £1,000 for a single item. So that's really, I suppose, all I have to say about the fund. As I say, it is a really new way of funding, and it's probably quite hard maybe for some clubs to get their head around. But we already have 5 clubs who have succeeded in the last 3 months, and a lot more close to hitting their targets. So I think we have an example of a club, Queen's University Club, that have used Crowdfunder before, so hopefully they'll be able to shed a little bit more light on it. But as I say, we'll give a bit more information about how you kind of go about setting up your Crowdfunder page from the ladies here at Crowdfunder. So I'll hand back to you, Zoe, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Norma. That was incredibly kind of informative, and hopefully got a lot of projects quite excited about the prospect of applying for this money. Kirsty has put a link actually into the chat box, which will take you to the funding page on the Crowdfunder website, so you can have a little look through the criteria and eligibility for that one. Speaking of Kirsty, if we could welcome Kirsty onto the screen. Hello there, and Kirsty's going to talk us through crowdfunding, so I'll leave you to it, Kirsty.
Yes, okay, so let's crack on. So thank you, Norma. You've made my job a lot easier, but so everybody's happy with how the fund works. I'm just going to tell you a bit about how the basics of crowdfunding work. And as Norma mentioned, we do have other resources available as an online course, which will help to consolidate what I tell you in this short period of time. So we'll put the link in for you in the chat box for that too. So what is crowdfunding? So crowdfunding is a great way to raise money and awareness for your organisation by engaging with your community. You're going to create a page on our online platform, and it is very user-friendly, so don't worry if you're not too tech savvy. You're going to create a page that looks something like this one on the screen, and then you're going to promote your campaign to your crowd and your community, who will then go on to make pledges and help you reach your goal. It's really important to make an engaging page targeted at the whole community. So try not to fall into that trap of simply writing something to your club members, because they're most likely to already be supporting you. So you want to be reaching out to a wider audience and to really make the most of your crowdfunding. When creating your page, what we usually recommend is to start with a heading with a few headings, section up your story and organise the content into clear sections. You want to outline who you are as a club, your impact in the community, and why you're crowdfunding. So for a lot of you here, that will be the effects that COVID has had on your organisation. Then be transparent about how you plan to spend the money as well. So as a potential supporter, you'll be much more likely to actually pledge or donate to a campaign if you can see the direct impact that your financial contribution will make. Once you have all that information, it's time then to make your page more engaging. And the best way to do that is by using images and videos. So you can add images throughout the page. You can bring it to life, try and have some people in those images if you've got teams within your sports club, potentially some teams, or just the team behind running the club. People like to see faces. And you can add images throughout that page. Your video as well, which we always recommend, and that should act as an elevator pitch to summarise the key parts of your campaign, the key elements behind it, and reflect the personality of your club. As well. So it engages much more with supporters. If you have a video, it lets them know who's behind the project, and there's nobody's going to be more passionate about your project than yourself. So, get in front of the camera and relay that passion. 1 to 2 minutes is perfect amount of time. It doesn't need to be overproduced. You just need to grab the audience's attention. Okay, so it's really important to make sure that you're happy with your page before you go live, and also before applying for the Sport NI extra funding, as the page will be reviewed when Sport NI are considering your application. Just before I move on to the next step, I also want to mention that it's worth it at this point looking at your extra funding options. When you log in, you'll have some extra funding options potentially on your dashboard, as long as you've ticked the box to say you allow us to share your details with our partners. So one in particular is, I just want to draw attention to, is the National Emergencies Trust page, which hopefully Zoe might be able to put a link into our funding page there, and have a look at the NET fund. NET is available for community and voluntary organisations at the moment, and they're match funding up to £10,000 per project. And similar to the Sport NI one, you need to reach at least 25 unique backers before they will start making pledges on your project. So have a look at that. It's a great way to boost your campaign and doesn't negatively impact any funding that you might get from Sport NI. Okay, so Norma mentioned rewards when she was talking about pages. So what are rewards? Well, here at Crowdfunder, we are the top rewards-based crowdfunding platform. It means that you're offering something in return for a financial contribution towards your project. So rather than a donations only, which a lot of crowdfunding is, you have that facility and that feature to offer something in return. So it can be, it sits on top of the donations, the standard donations approach that is used in traditional fundraising. They help to take your campaign to the next level, and they also encourage larger and more pledges and enable you to attract pledges from outside your network. So when you're thinking about your rewards, try to offer a range of rewards targeted at different audiences. Your members might be tempted by a one-to-one coaching session, for example, but you could also offer any sponsorship or advertising space to larger donors. So think about local businesses in your community. And then you want to think about those in the wider community who don't necessarily have a connection with your club already, but how can you get them to pledge? So speak with some local businesses, again, who may want to support your campaign by giving you a reward as opposed to a financial contribution. So they can offer products or services to use as rewards, and offering these at a slight discount means that anyone in the area might be keen to make a pledge to grab themselves a bargain. So you can see on this slide here, we've included some great examples of rewards that we've seen on this in past projects. So vouchers for fish and chip shop, for example, and you know, discounts on local businesses. Now, multiplier is a feature that we have and you can select on your project. It's another feature that we have that can be extremely effective for sports clubs because it allows people to fundraise on behalf of your project. So perhaps you have some individuals that want to do something special to raise funds for the club, like a sponsored swim or run a marathon. Perhaps you have different teams or squads, fancy a bit of competition to see who can raise the most. So it's a great way to get more people involved in promoting the campaign and tapping into their personal networks as well as the club's network. And it can help to add a great competitive element to your campaign too. So on the screen here, we've got a great example of a project that used the multiplier really well. So Spencer Lacrosse Club, they had 44 fundraisers, helping them to reach over £22,000 by the time their project closed. So check out that feature when you're looking at registering your project. So extra funding, I think Norma's probably covered this pretty well for us already, but just to summarise and again, so £650,000 available from Sport NI, up to £5,000 available per project, which is but it's a maximum of it's 50% of your initial target. So the application is done on our platform. So you register your project, you sort your page out, and then you'll hit the apply for this fund button in your dashboard and fill out the relevant details. To receive the pledge, you have to have at least 25% of your initial target already raised. At that point, the pledge from Sport NI is actually applied to your page, so it will be reflected in your amount raised on your page. So that shows the credibility to your crowd that Sport NI are backing your project as well. And then you go on to raise the rest of your target to secure that pledge the 25 unique supporters. Unique supporters is unique cards.
Hi there, Kirsty. I think we've just got a frozen Kirsty at the moment. If maybe Kirsty, if you refresh your screen, hopefully she'll come back in. But as she was just explaining there, that the 25. Oh, we lost you for a bit there, Kirsty. I just started to go back over 25 unique supporters. That's where we got to. I'll leave you to.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to, so I think we've covered off that last slide. That's the extra funding. So crowdfunding is really effective for sports clubs. So crowdfunding, when you think about it, it's about just going out to your community, getting them involved. And sports clubs have that in common with crowdfunding, and that it's cheering for a common goal. And I'm sure you all agree that there's lots of similarities in sports. So you are all at an advantage there that sports crowdfunds really well. Sports clubs are often at the heart of a community as well, and by definition you have a group of potentially competitive people who directly benefit from the project. So whether it's rugby, scuba diving, speed skating, you name it, we've seen it crowdfund successfully. So it's just a case of getting out there, doing it, and go for it. Okay, and that's me, Zoe. I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you, Kirsty. Again, really informative. Hopefully that's given our project owners a lot to think about when they're about to set up their crowdfunder. I think let's hear from Davey and see. Davey, are you there? Can you pop your camera and your microphone on, please?
Hello.
Hello there. How are you today?
Yes, good. Sorry about that first time test run.
No,
but I'm in there.
These things happen. We're live. Like we said, it's absolutely fine. I'm just going to share a link into the chat box just for your project so people can have a little look through there at their leisure. But if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your project, please.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Rugby Revival is the name of our project for the crowdfunding campaign. Look, it's pretty simple. It's in the title. You know, post-pandemic, obviously being a university club, you know, across all sectors there, a female, female game and everything. We just thought we needed to do something to sort of get things going again. In terms of funding for that, we sort of lost sponsorship, as everyone has, and everyone's felt the effects of it. So it wasn't going to be as easy for the committees to get programs going again, in terms of maybe paying for some coaching or some equipment or any of those things. So whenever we seen the opportunity for the crowdfunding, obviously the committee and all sort of jumped at it. You know, and we thought, right, well, this could really help us. Okay, so let's have a look at this. And look, it's pretty straightforward. Getting that funding in, and I suppose we'll chat a little bit about how that happened. But you know, getting that in is really, it's made things happen for us. So we're able to get focus on getting sort of things like tag rugby going again, getting students that are new to the university involved in some programs, and we've got things planned now and also through the sort of March, April time as well. So look, it's been brilliant. I think it's been very, very user friendly as well for us and simple, and I think that's the key really. Is how simple it is to set up and start using. So that was the key for us to get it going anyway.
That's great news. I'm glad you've kind of found it so successful for you as a tool for fundraising, which is brilliant. Maybe you'll kind of consider it going forward as well. What have you found difficult about the crowdfunding process, if anything?
No, like not an awful not an awful lot, to be honest. I was trying to think of one there. No, yeah, I thought that might come up. I was thinking about what's been difficult. No, not really. I also feel post-pandemic and all, I know that's what everyone's saying at the minute, but people are generous as well. Like I think people that maybe have came through it in better stead than others, like want to give to things as well, and they want to see others do well. So I think people have been generous, and the great thing about it gives a good menu of how you can support. It's not just, you know, pledge money. It's actually, you know, what really detailed of what it's going to. Okay, well, I can only give 20 quid or maybe 50, or I can give a bit more. Then there's a bit of a menu, you know, off of that. So yeah, no, nothing overly difficult. I know that sounds like a cop out, but yeah, it was quite easy.
I think what you've touched upon though, which I think is really important, is that kind of transparency, but also using that page as a real platform to tell your crowd exactly who you are, why you're crowdfunding, and like you say, give people an idea of price points maybe within your rewards, to actually prompt them to pledge different amounts of money. People quite like to be told how things can help and how their money will help, so that encourages people to pledge at different price points, which is brilliant. What did you find has worked the best so far for you? Has there been a particular way of promoting it, or?
It was, I think, as I said, it's how clear the page is. You know, you've got an opportunity to put videos in there. We had a video done up previously, actually, it worked quite well, and photos. Look, it's a pretty eye-catching page. You know, the template that's set up for you is, you know, it's really handy to use for any club. And that's the thing, you know, you've only maybe got you share a link, you know, you maybe only capture someone's attention for a short period of time, you know. So if you've got a video or something there straight away, I think that's the key, you know, and that's what I really like about it. The reward scheme has been brilliant. Like, it's, as you said, it gives a sort of menu or a breakdown, a price point of somebody who could give. So, and that also hits people across the board. So whether it's a younger person, for us, like, it's just left university a few years, you know, maybe he wants to re-engage. We put in things like some items of kit, you know, like Queen's shirts or ties and stuff like that. You know, they want to give a lower £20, brilliant. Well, you get your tie and whatever. Or if it's sponsorship from a business at the other end, you know, then they can see exactly what their money's going to. So for us, that has been great. And the best thing on all of that is just the re-engagement with, you know, like, you know, say just people who have been away from the club for a while, who've graduated or left, or and just the re-engagement there. They're able to leave comments. They're able to say, look, guys, all the best for the season. And, you know, and then from that, actually, some of our committee have sort of then touched base to say thanks, and a bit of conversation comes out of that. And then we've been able to get some guys back to the club to watch games. And also, that's been really good. Actually, it's not just a fundraising campaign for us. It's a way of sort of linking back in with alumni and past players and stuff. So that's been great.
That's sweet. You've just covered my next question, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
No, that's fine. Which was, other than the financial benefits, have you kind of seen any benefit? But obviously, from what you've just said, it's almost as if it's been a bit of a re-engaging kind of exercise as well, which is lovely to strike up those conversations again. And then finally, what advice would you give somebody who's about to crowdfund?
No, I would just say, not so advice, just go for it, because the template, I think all these fundraising things, we think there's a lot of, you know, in terms of setting up a page, there's a lot of, you have to have some sort of skill in that, but actually it was so user-friendly. You know, we just got a small committee sort of out of guys who maybe weren't doing as much around the club. You don't want to be giving it to someone that's doing everything, as happens in sports clubs, but we got a small committee involved. You know, I thought it would take a lot more to get set up, but to be honest, it didn't take very much at all. As I said, the template and all there and the crowdfunding is brilliant. So, I would just say, look, get a few heads together that people are keen on it, and just get a look at the page and start firing ideas of what's going to be really engaging, you know, on your page. And the rewards is the key. I think that's the key. Like, have a think about that. Think about, like, what can we offer here? You know, who can we engage with in the community? And a lot of these sports clubs, you already have those links with people in the community. It's just approach them and going, look, here's what we're doing. You know, show them the page. You know, do you want to be a part of this for us? And that's it. Like, I would just go for it. Yeah, it's been great for us now. It's been really
amazing. Good. That's really good to hear. And I think you're completely right there. I think having a team of people around you is a really important thing. It's a big undertaking for just one person. If you can kind of have different people looking at different elements of putting the page together and promotion and things, and not being scared to talk to your community and your network, and people will get behind you. You just have to kind of put your project out there in front of them. So that's really, really great information for our new projects. Thank you, Davey.
No problem.
What would be brilliant is to invite Norma and Kirsty back onto the screen. And then if we've got any questions any questions coming in for any of our kind of panel today, for Davey or Kirsty or Norma, let's have a little look.
Actually, so I'm just I'll in the Q&A section.
Let me just
recap. Some have already been answered by along the way, but let's just recap for everyone to hear. So We had one from Stephen asking, can the total project cost exceed 10,000, albeit Sport NI support is capped at 5,000? So yes, you can. You can crowdfund for more. So setting your target, I would suggest, is all about having a realistic approach to the size of your network. How many people can you reach? And therefore, how many people do you think would pledge? And also how much you really need. So setting your target is about looking at the minimum that you need to get your project up and running, and setting that as your target, and then potentially having a stretch target on top of that, so you can aim for a little bit more. If you have your initial target to get things going, then that's a good approach. Got one from Rosalie. Can a club apply for more than one crowdfunding project? So one for sport and another for cultural activities. In terms of crowdfunding in general, then yes, you can do as many crowdfunding projects as you want. What I suppose one thing we'd say is you don't want to do you don't want to be doing more than one at one time. So it takes a lot of effort just to run one crowdfunding project. So you need that intense sort of focus on it. So. And also you'd want to maybe leave a delay between running another one, because your supporters can get fatigued, you can become fatigued as well. So in terms of the Sport NI, Norma, do you want to take that on in terms of applying for funding?
Absolutely. Yes, I would agree with Kirsty there. Really what we're sort of looking at, obviously the project Reboot is a COVID sort of recovery response, and it's aimed at promoting sporting activity within clubs and returning that sporting activity. So we would recommend that you have one campaign open at the minute at any one time. Now obviously there are some clubs who were successful in the larger awards in terms of team up, and they can apply in each of those strands because their projects obviously go for the full year, and they can apply in terms of that. But I think what we would recommend is that it's one crowdfunding campaign under Activate at any one time. That's not to say that if you hadn't delivered that particular project or were in the realms of delivering and you have been successful and then we're in delivery mode, you may want to come on and do another crowdfunding campaign before the fund finally closes, as say in June. But we would say it would be one really, and it is that focus on sporting activity.
Thank you. This might be for yourself, Kirsty, really, and a bit from Norma. Can you clarify the sequence? This is from Stuart. In what comes first, the crowdfunding page or the application to Sport Northern Ireland?
I would say the page first. You want to build the page because Sport NI will review your page to get a clear idea of what your project's all about, what you're looking to achieve. So that's the order. Do the page first, and then in your dashboard, you'll have a button to press to say apply for funds, and that's when you fill in your application form for that extra funding, and that gets pinged over to Sport NI.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just sorry, Zoe, could I cut in there? It's probably just saying we would recommend you don't go live until, if you are sort of applying to us for funding, not to go live just yet until you get a decision from us. We aim, as I say, to turn around a decision within 5 days, so it's very quick. It's not that you're sitting there waiting for a decision. We are on the ball with that, and we will give a quick decision, but we do view the page and the information that's in the page, and that does form some of the basis of the moderate assessment that we do undertake.
Perfect, thank you. We've got this one from Arthur. How many projects are underway at the moment? Do we know?
Yeah, I just was having a quick scroll through. I was panicking there slightly. Yeah, so we have 15 pledged at the minute. So that means that we have pledged our support. They're probably live at the minute. I think there's definitely 2 who have, at least 2, if not 3, that have met their full target and are operational. But as I say, there's 15 that I can see at the minute that are pledged.
Wonderful, thank you. I think you probably touched upon this earlier. Just to kind of clarify, this is from Seamus. Can you apply for more than one sports project?
I think we've covered that from sport. You've covered that from Sport NI's perspective. Yeah, and again, the same applies from a crowdfunder's perspective. Yes, you can, but think about the timings and such like.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, we've got, if the project doesn't meet the criteria and is rejected, can it be amended and resubmitted? That's for Norma.
Okay, there is certain eligibility criteria in terms of being that sports club, constituted sports club that's recognised by the governing body or the charity. They are sort of the non-negotiables. The bits around your target groups or your what the project's aiming to do, sometimes that maybe doesn't come across completely well, and we need a little bit more clarity on that, and therefore then we will go back and we will ask you to provide us with that clarity in the page and resubmit. So yes, there is a little bit of that, but you must meet the eligibility criteria that I outlined in terms of that, being that sporting organisation, the being a COVID recovery and response, that it has to be hitting one of the target groups, and it needs to deliver something fresh, new, something that's not been done really within the club before, or is a different slant to what you're sort of doing in the club.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now this one is about referring to this from Betty Ann. We're referring to the completion date of June 2022 for projects. They're hoping to run some training, but would they need to have all of that completed by June, or just the crowdfunder completed by June, I guess is this question. Do they need to have the sessions and the money being used up by June?
At the minute, yes, it is like that, unfortunately, and that is around, as I say, the whole programme is built around COVID recovery, and that's when our sort of Build Back Better COVID recovery response is due to run to, and it's all around the monitoring and evaluation of the programmes, and how we feed that back to show the impact that the investment has made. So unfortunately, it is all activity finishing by the 30th of June.
Thank you for clarifying, Norma. This one, Kirsty, I think would be good for you to field. Can Project Reboot be used in conjunction with other funds or grants, i.e. with the local council? That's from Paul.
Yes, so Norma, correct me if I'm wrong from a Sport NI's perspective, but certainly with crowdfunding, we encourage you to apply for any extra funding that's available to you through our platform. Also, when you're thinking, if you've got other funds and grants in the background, think about that when you're setting your target for your crowdfunder. Don't shy away from letting people know that you have applied or are going to apply for other funds and grants, so they can get a clear idea of how you are going to fund the overall project if it's the total cost is more than you're crowdfunding for. So have that transparency. One of the good benefits that you can get from crowdfunding is tangible evidence. If it's a successful crowdfunder, you've got that tangible evidence to provide to other funders and grant givers that the community is engaged and behind your project. So also think about the order that you want to maybe do it all in as well. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Norma.
Just one thing, I suppose it would really be seen that, yes, if you had a project and obviously the project exceeded, the 10,000 that you were looking to sort of and you were putting in money from another funder, as in a council supporting that as well. We would consider that, but it's not considered as part of the support for that for us to put our match funding in. So, for example, if you had received a grant of £2,000, that would come in separate to what, rather than a pledge. The pledge comes in from your community, your supporters, so to speak. So it couldn't be used to say, well, actually, we've got £2,000 that Belfast City Council have pledged to us. It must be within the pledge on the crowdfunder platform to be able to meet those targets that are set within that.
Thank you. I think just quickly, I think you covered this earlier, Kirsty, but just worth clarifying. This is from Stuart. What happens if you achieve the initial 25% from 25 supporters, but fail to achieve the full target?
Yeah, so if you don't reach your full target, the funding will go, well, the pledge will come off the page. Essentially, the funding goes back to Sport NI to be redistributed.
Thank you very much. There is a quick one. I wonder if, I think it's from Paul, if Paul might want to clarify a little bit. The question is, what is the follow-up process for clubs after a successful campaign? I'm not sure if that's for yourself, Norma.
I'll tackle it from what I think it might mean. once the project closes, what do you have to do? So that's what I'm going to address. So once your project closes, the monies are paid out to you. You get everything's verified, and the funding plus your money from the crowd is paid out to you within 7 to 10 working days. If you've offered rewards on your project, you then have to obviously fulfill those. So when you're set up your rewards, you're going to put an estimated fulfillment date on those so people know when to expect them. So you'll get access to your supporters' details. So you can contact them, you can download the list from your dashboard, so you'll have their contact details and you let them know, and you can continue to send updates through your crowdfunder page as well to all your existing supporters. So as your project progresses, you can let your supporters know and keep them updated that way too. So invoices and reporting of funding. So again, you're going to have all those supporters details. The invoicing and reporting potentially is more to do with you, Norma. I'm going to be.
It is, Kirsty. Yes, I'm going to pick that up, and I actually thought that might be what Paul was intimating. There is, unfortunately, it is public money, and we can't step away from that. And we do have our, as Paul probably is aware, our reporting processes to undertake. So what we do say to every applicant is, treat it that this is a grant, a normal grant that you would get from maybe a district council or ourselves. And what we ask you to do is you must retain receipts and invoices. You must retain all of those for your own records. It's not necessarily that we will come back and request those from every project, but we will be doing a sample of projects that we will go back and we will have to request those. So it's important to keep records and keep all of those in place, that if you are purchasing equipment or if you have coaches fees or facility hire, that you keep all of the invoices. It's important that you do proper accounting, as we would recommend in any sports club. We may well come back, as I say, and ask for a sample of those, and we will sample a certain number of projects towards the end of the year in terms of those finances, but they will be selected, as I say, when we get to do that sample. So just please keep records of all of your spend and on all of your invoices and receipts.
Thank you. I think just this one last final question, because we have overrun. Can you reduce the amount of funding sought if you're unable to raise it? That's from Michael. I think that's probably specifically Norma. For you, Kirsty. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say for Norma, because for crowdfunding as a platform, you can, as long as you let your supporters know that you're reducing your target. However, if you apply for NIS, it's maybe restricted.
Yeah. I'm not completely, I suppose, we may need to come back to you on that one, Michael, but as far as I'm aware, that no, you can't, you set your target and it is around you achieving that target. So it's being mindful about what you need to deliver the project. What amount do you need, sitting down and sort of costing out your project and seeing what you need to raise from that. It's then it's around trying to get on board, being mindful of how much potentially you think you can raise from your community, from your crowd, and be not asking for maybe more than you necessarily need, but certainly being mindful about what potential you think you can actually raise from your crowd. It would be something, where we said, would you have 2 crowdfunder campaigns at the same time? You may well decide to come back in after that and raise something for another part of the project that maybe you didn't include the first time around, and that's fine. But it's just being mindful that once you've set your target, there isn't, to my knowledge, any deviation from that if you're not meeting it. It's really down to engaging the crowd to be able to meet it.
Thank you. I think if that's everything, what I'll do is I will share the Learn platform link into the chat box now. Let me just do that. Oh, there we go.
I'm just going to really quickly, that's just a screenshot of how the online Learn course looks. So you can see it's really straightforward. I highly recommend going on to that and just to consolidate everything we've covered today. And I think,
so thank you to our panel for coming today, and thank you to all of you for attending as well, and your great questions. and hopefully you've all been inspired to start crowdfunding.
Could I just jump on, Zoe, before we finish and say, I see there's a couple of questions there. Just if you email Project Reboot, all one word, projectreboot@sportni.net. If you've any queries, we'll pick them up from there, and we can come back to you outside of the webinar. So it's Project Reboot, all one word, @sportni.net, and we'll be able to pick up and come back to you.
We'll send a follow-up email, and we'll pop that in there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.